Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. It is finally here. Version 35.1 introduces card crafting into Paragon. I am so excited. I'm speechless. So join in as we read the version 35.1 patch notes, as not only have they added card crafting, this is the first little tweak after Monolith has been released, so there's a lot of things that they just don't mention that are in the patch notes that I think you will find quite interesting. So ladies and gentlemen, here it is, card crafting loot crates in a free Twin Blast skin. So guys, really, card crafting is here. It's pretty simple. You're going to dismantle unwanted cards to create crafting parts. Then you're going to use those parts and some reputation as well to build some new cards. But be careful. Obviously, once you dismantle the card, it's going to be just gone for good. So save up that rep. Save up those cards. It's going to be here. Now, there's also going to be loot crates. These loot crates are going to contain some rare skins, master challenges, boosts, coins, and a lot more. But you're going to have to get keys from tributes and master challenge tributes. So only when you level up, will level heroes up and your account up, will you get those keys. I believe that's where the only place you get those tributes. And obviously the master challenge tributes when you level up heroes. And of course, you can always purchase those with coins, which you can buy with real money. Please watch the video. It is quite informative and not that long. Of course, new skin here, which looks totally badass. Shadow Ops Twin Blast. I'm definitely going to make a build because it's quite easy. All you have to do is complete 10, not win, complete 10 PvP or co-op matches between the 13th and the 31st in order to play him. And of course, it applies to solo matches up to account level 5. I am making a build called Ocelot with Twin Blast, and you can tell me what reference that is from, because oh boy, you would be freaking awesome. So of course they have changed Iggy and Scorch, as there's lots of discussion about him, and you can see later on that when we do get there, he's gonna be he's changed a little bit. So yeah, it's fairly substantial. So the weekly card pack there, you guys can check that out, but some changes to Monolith. Tier 2 towers no longer deal a ridiculous 300% damage bonus buff while immune from damage. You shouldn't be auto-deleted as soon as you step your toe into that, into that tier 2 when they're immune for damage. You should just get hit. A little bit of a penalty, be like, oh, whoops, I stepped into that, not get auto-deleted, which seems to happen a lot. Super minions will now spawn after the melee minions as they leave base to prevent getting focused down by incoming waves. I always thought why they were in the position that they were. They should really, in my opinion, be in the back. They should be the last one so that they deal the most damage and that they push that wave as much as possible. So that's what you want, right? That's what you want. Yeah, there you go. White jungle minions should now have death effects. It's kind of weird, they just kind of disappeared. Green buff no longer cancelled, and some other bugs and stuff like that. Bots no longer see through fog walls, and a little silly thing with Kwang. Now, heroes. It's been, a lot of them have been changed a fair amount, and it's quite interesting when you just look at it and kind of consider what those changes are. So a little tooltip update for the Countess and her Blade Sylphin. Crunch here. Right Crunch, since you now have the correct name and death recap. But Howitzer here has been changed a fair amount. His slow grenades have been decreased by 20% in how far their arc is. So like 20% or so, from 0.825 to 0.625. Probably just a little bit too much of an AoE, probably. And since slow is so much more powerful now, it's going to be a little bit of an issue, just to kind of deal with that. So they decreased the arc. And of course, his the damage has been decreased as well. 60, 110, 162, 10 to 75, 135, 195, 255. So a little bit less. my experience playing Howitzer, he's a complete beast at the moment, so I am okay with that. His slow grenades didn't do that much damage to begin with, but it was just another ability that you could throw out there, get some damage, and just kind of completely nuke somebody down. So I like that change, as I think that's a little bit probably more balanced. But Iggy and Scorch, the big focus of a lot of debate lately as being he's kind of completely useless. So Flame Turret increased the max turn count for that second level. Second level here has been increased by 1 turret, so you can get 2 turrets down a little bit quicker. I do like that. That's probably gonna be like the very first or second ability you get. So that's probably be around level 4 or 5. You'll be able to upgrade that again. I think that's an appropriate time to have for him to have 2 turrets for sure. Now also increase the base damage per second amount by a substantial amount, about 25%. So you can see there in the late game, used to deal 42, now 54 damage per second, and level 1, 12.5 to 15. So substantial increase to that damage. I like that. I mean, if that was the issue with him, then I definitely do like that indeed. Oil Slick decreased the mana cost to 40 at all levels from 80, 90, 100, 110. I think that was one of the issues with him. He wasn't able to be useful enough because his Flame Turret, he only had 1 of them. The enemy would focus it because it grants card power and experience, so they would focus it and you only had 1, so now you're kind of left with your basic attack because Oil Slick has huge mana cost, so you couldn't use that too much. I like it. 40 mana at all levels. You can use that as a constant source of pretty good DPS, so I like that. Now Kalari, some interesting thing here. Shadow Walk increased the mana cost to 50 at all levels from 35-40, 45-50. She could basically just she didn't have a mana problem, which I found a little odd since everybody was very mana intensive pretty much, so I like that. Crippling Dagger increased the mana cost to 35-40, 45-50 from 25-30, 55-40. Again, she didn't have a mana problem, which maybe wasn't the most appropriate, so I think that's fair indeed. A little tooltip Chimera thing. Kwang decreased the mana cost of Light of Heavens to 65 at all levels. He had a mana issue. Judgment of the Heavens decreased the mana cost. As you can see, a little theme here. Decreasing some mana costs that were a little too high. It's a bit of a mana issue overall that really wasn't that it's not a kind of a good sort of, mechanic to have in the game, right? Mana issues all the time, that's not really a good mechanic to have in the game. Another thing that's huge though is decreased his cooldown on Judgment of the Heavens to 14 from 21 and 12 there in the late game. So in the early game, you're going to be able to use that so much more often and secure those kills. That is very interesting that they changed that. Probably had an issue there in the early game getting away from heroes, so he's be able to use that Judgment much more often. Belka, a little bit of a bug stuff. Richter, he is my man, and boy, have I noticed this. Riplash decreased the mana cost to 110 at all levels from this ridiculous 150. I mean, there in the late game you have a good mana pool, but in the early game 120 you basically couldn't use it that much except for very key ganks that you could get on the enemy 2v1 there. So I like that. Electrocute, now correct the value. Skewer decreased mana cost to 75. Again, mana issues were definitely a thing, so I like that. You can see mana has changed, so now in 35.1 you should go back and change that. Now Sevarog decreased the base health to 485.6 from 526, so 40 less health, and decreased the health per level to 65.57 from 71. Sevarog looks really good in today's meta. He is a beast. He is a solid, he can be a solid tank, but he can also be a solid fighter. So maybe that's a little bit of a reason for that. Sylphin now grants the correct amount of damage when hitting soul stack tiers, and decrease the base damage to 70, 85, 100, 115 to 70, 95, 120, 145. So a little bit less there in the late game. As I said, he is a monster fighter now in Monolith. Colossal Blow reduced the mana cost to 100 at all levels from all of this. 40, that's little too little. Yes, those soul stack tiers are much farther apart in the late game, so maybe that mana cost is a little bit more, makes a little bit more sense. But I think for how powerful it is, how much damage it deals, and that CC that it has, I think that's more appropriate. Decrease the base damage to 190 in the early game instead of 220, and 330 in the late game instead of 380. Just a little bit, probably, again, just a little too strong. Twin Blast. We have Twin Blast here. Increase the mana cost of his grenade, because in the early game, yes, early game, a little bit too easy to spam those out there, and I agree with that. Rapid Fire should now deal the correct damage to minions. It should deal its maximum amount of damage against minions, and then reduce damage to heroes. That definitely wasn't happening. And look at that bad-ass Twin Blast. God. That is so good. So good. So good, so good, so good. And of course, a little bit of the weekly stats upgrades. So there you guys go. There is the difference. Some of the key changes for these heroes. Go in, if they are your mains, check them out, because some of those are pretty key. Some of those are pretty key, and it changes quite a bit. So if you are excited about card crafting, holy crap, I am, and you should be too, because you can finally get those damn cards that you need and get rid of those multiple cards that you have there. Like, I have 11 or 12 or 13 Vicious Kinetics. Like, it's just ridiculous. So there you guys go. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community. Of course, subscribe if you guys want. Tons of content coming out very soon. Please subscribe for that. A lot of math, because Monolith changes everything. Lyle, until next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.